So today we have Arnita Warford joining us from Univa. So Arnita, can you just tell us quickly who you are and what you do at Univa?
Absolutely. Thank you, Eva, for having me. Good to be back with resources. My name is Arnita Walford. I am the Global Marketing and Technical Director at Univar Solutions. And my job is really to make sure that all of the great ingredients we have from all of our supply partners are visible on the market and are in the hands of the brands and the formulators that we service.
Thank you very much, Anita. So, and you know me, I'm Eva. I'm the founder of Resources, which is a platform of content, educational content about sustainability for beauty brand, accessible on membership. So today we wanted to focus on diversity in beauty and more specifically towards the topic regarding accessible beauty in diversity. And I can give you a bit of market figures to give you like a background about the topic and what's happening in the beauty industry right now. We know that a few brands have released some product last year. We're going to talk about this and at the beginning of this year actually as well. And but we know that roughly there's 1 billion people in the world who have some sort of disability. It's about 50% of the population, which is a big number. I don't know if you're aware of this, Anita, if you've ever heard of these figures.
I did when I was researching our recent beauty campaign, No Boundaries. I found it was 1 in 4 adults in the US have a disability. And not only a disability, but a disability that's considered non visible. So that's a lot of people.
Yeah, exactly. And I think there needs to be more information about this and more product availability about that. And the World Health Organization reports, for instance, there is like 2.2 billion people who live with a visual impairment and 29 million people that are actually blind. And it's very complex, because the market is not really catered for them. There's not many products. Everything is very for the able people, but there's more and more visibility for them. And globally, we can say that there's about 15 million people that have limited motor skills. So, which is a huge number of chunk of the population. And there was also a survey recently about from Procter and Gamble in 2019 that I found that only 4% of beauty products are actually adapted to disability or to any sort of visual impairment or limited dexterity. I think 4% is actually quite is bigger than I thought. I think there's actually less product on the market regarding, disability, whether it's visual, whether it's movement, whatever. But it's interesting to look at this because I think we need to cater for this population. So you mentioned just earlier that you've developed a report about diversity. You did a research. So what were the main findings of this research? And what struck you the most, with the figures that you found?
I think what struck me the most and the team as we were putting it together is a lot of members of the disabled community today spoke out. It was a very diverse panel of people that have been really surveyed to understand what are your needs, what's missing. And
Yeah,
what came back from that was there is one generation that is what I'll consider the generation change makers, Gen Z. They are leading the charge
yeah,
for this inclusive piece of sort of this inclusive movement in that the beauty industry include the disabled population, not only disabled but in general be more inclusive across the board, and specifically in this instance, the disabled population. So what did we see? We saw that they really want advertising that speaks to them, whether that's seeing models that remind them of someone that they know that they can
yeah,
identify with, that the content itself is much more grounded, that they can identify with what they're saying, the story that's being told. And then also that they're really looking for brands that it's part of their DNA. It's not just a gimmick. It's not just something they're using to grasp more attention or get more more followers on Instagram. They
yeah.
want somebody who believes in the cause, who's standing up for the cause, and who's fostering, a change in our industry.
Yeah, they want to see like brands that are not using like a token in their advertising campaign, I guess, but yes,
Exactly.
real, involved in real change. And you mentioned about 48% of Gen Zers, were wanted to see this diversity, right? This is quite high percentage.
It is because it's really the generation of change makers. They have decided that no, we don't want the status quo any longer. We really do want to see a shift. And I think if you look at that overall, it means that those, if you're just looking at the numbers from the US, 1 in 4 adults have a disability. Well, Gen Z, those are their parents. So 1 in 4 group of parents in the US alone, these people are living with this every day and they see the struggle. If you
Yeah,
look at some of the developments, and I think it's great that we're seeing some of these developments happen now.
yeah,
Shame it didn't happen sooner, but HAPTA coming out from L'Oreal that was launched at CES in Las Vegas just in, I think it was March or April. It's a tool, if you don't know about it, it's a
yes,
tool that basically for people who have limited mobility in their arms and in their hands. It stabilizes Lancome specifically. They're only focused on Lancome now, but I'm sure they'll roll out multiple iterations. So it stabilizes lipsticks so that you can actually apply it. Estee Lauder has a different application for visually impaired people specifically that gives them the independence and the freedom to be able to apply makeup and lipstick and anything really. It checks your eyeliner. It checks if things are if they're out of the lines, if you will,
yeah,
like lipstick, eyeliner, eyeshadow, all the things that you put on to make yourself more glamorous. Instead of having to call someone, text someone, send a selfie, it's,
yeah,
oh, the app is giving me immediate feedback. I need to correct this.
yeah, yeah.
So there's a lot of change happening now, and that's wonderful, and I'm looking forward to see what we can do as an industry to even move that needle forward.
I I agree, and it's our responsibility to make it available to more people. And I wonder, this is just a question out of the blue. I don't know whether, or like in my mind, but I don't know whether there's an answer. But because our business, we work in a business world, it's about profitability. I don't know how many people can actually buy this product, and whether this is going to be profitable for brands for them to continue on developing this type of product. But I think it's amazing to already have seen some things on the market.
I think, from a profitability standpoint, when you start catering to a specific market, you show that you're invested, you show that you care. And if it's genuine, again, going back to what we talked about from the beginning, if it's genuine, that specific demographic or that market picks up on that and they rally behind you. So, yes, anything can be profitable as long as you are speaking to the community, you're marketing it in the right way, and it's priced correctly.
Yeah.
Again, yes, I don't know how much well, the app I'm sure is probably free, but the Hapta device, is it really expensive? It shouldn't be, because that's a limiting factor. So if it's priced right, maybe this first iteration is a little bit expensive because it's the first generation, but hey,
But
the
it's still
next,
available on the market. And as you say, like there's a very interesting topic about this, like the fact that actually it's an appeal for the wider consumer, because they see, when they see brands actually actively doing something that really makes sense and make a change, they're more likely to follow that brand and to trust that brand. So it's a really interesting appeal for the new consumer. And also, there was a mention in your report about diversity, that actually it's not just about, we talked about disability, but there's a wider vision about this diversity. Um, can you remember the percentage of Gen Z that were purchasing for diverse beauty product or diverse companies? It was 38%
38, okay, 38%.
of
Go
Gen Z wanted to buy from beauty with that promoted diversity, which is really high as well. Again, really interesting.
again, they're interested in being part of a movement that moves the industry forward. They want to see a permanent change.
Yeah,
I know people reference it all the time, but when Rihanna's Fenty Beauty came out with those 40 shades that are now turned into, I don't know, 60 something shades,
yeah,
that was a pivotal moment in
I
beauty.
agree.
And it
Yeah,
became you no longer have to decide if you're adding one or two or three shades to your range. You now have to meet that standard. That's what the consumer expects. And so if you think about that, that was 3 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Those consumers have grown into, okay, this is what I expect, this is what I'm used to from a makeup brand. If I'm looking for foundation, that's what I expect. When I go and find lipstick shades, I expect a cool version, a warm version, so that it works on all skin tones. I think Huda Beauty does a really good job with that. And
Yes, I agree.
now
Yeah.
we're working at, we're working on packaging. So it's gone beyond just the shades being inclusive and the marketing being inclusive. When you look at the models or the language, when you look at the gender or gendered language, and the positioning. Now it's also about the packaging.
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
Is it
And
easy to open? Is it
yes,
recyclable?
yeah,
Is
is
it
it easy
low
to
impact?
understand? Yeah, does it work easily, or is it easy to understand how to make it work? Yeah, yeah, it's one of the thing. And actually, to go back on what you were saying, like 43% of US of beauty consumers say it makes them happy to see different types of beauty. And I think this is the thing about diversity as well. It's a different standard showing, again, talking about this earlier, that it's important to have diversity into the world. And talking about packaging, what are the different types of diversity trade you saw, or diversity action you saw regarding packaging towards the accessible side?
So I think, if you look at Rare Beauty from Selena Gomez, she's made all of her tops on her packaging
Yeah,
round, so
yeah,
that if you have a really hard time, if you have arthritis, or if you just have mobility issues, you can screw it off easier. That's great. How many times have you been trying to do something with gloves on that makes
yeah,
it more difficult as an abled person to just screw off your lipstick top or your lip gloss top? It's complicated. So that's one move. I think also Kohl's, they have a line of makeup brushes
yeah.
that are also accessible. They've changed the shape so that some of them are round. They
Yeah,
don't roll. They have a flat surface so that when you have them on the table, they're really easy
to
to
manipulate. Yeah,
identify,
yeah, and to
and you know what it is. And I believe it was also P&G that changed their shampoo and conditioner tops so that the shampoo and the conditioner are easily identifiable for someone who has low or is completely vision impaired.
Yeah, yeah. So there are a few, so we just released a report on resources actually 2 weeks ago about this accessible beauty and what are the example we can find on the market. But there was a few example of Braille, for instance, on packaging where people could be able to to understand, or to, with the touch, understand what was the product about. And it was L'Occitane and P&G that did example like this. And there's also the example of doing QR codes,
Yes.
where you would have information. You can scan the QR code and you can have information on the product. It's okay if you're problem with here, but if you're problem with listen with with sight, it's a bit complex because then you can't really see the QR code. So there are some remedy to this, and we're going to talk about this with Victoria Watts when we talk about a brand called Victoria Land, where she launched a specific language. But yes, there's a lot of things happening on the market. What I find exciting about beauty right now, I was talking about this last year, that there was not many diverse example of accessible beauty to make it accessible to more people. I wanted to ask you, because you work mostly on the formulation side, is there anything that you see you looking up to, or you checking, for when you develop your product as well, to make sure that you answer the market needs?
Yes, so going above and beyond color inclusivity, because that's the easy one. I think that's something everybody can nail. That's a question of pigments and making sure you have the right textures. But if you think about people who are also impaired from a mobility standpoint, I have a great hair care example. How hard is it to stand up and blow dry your hair, holding the brush, holding a blow dryer if you have shoulder, back, arm mobility? That
Yeah.
becomes a really challenging feat.
Mm.
But if you could have a product from a formulation standpoint that you apply very quickly, that goes in, it melts, could be silicone or non-silicone based, and it makes that drying process go faster. It makes the brush almost like a flat iron because you're so smooth and you've got a great result almost instantly. That, from a formulation standpoint, to me is an innovation with ingredients, with the formula that is also addressing the disability of that, of that particular person. So I think formulators have a responsibility as well. They can think out of the box. When you're trying to be as inclusive as possible, some of the things you do routinely and don't really think about are complicated for other people. How can I make that better with ingredients? How can I make that better with my packaging? It may be something as simple as also making sure your product is more fluid
Yeah.
than it is thick, so
Yes.
that it's easier to squeeze in the tubed package, or it's easier to scoop in the pot. Those types of simple changes can really make a difference.
Yes, and also we can talk about skin sensitivity, I guess, because if you have any sort of like, I don't know, mobility or other problems, then you may have a more sensitive skin as well, because you may have like more medicine to take or anything, or I don't know, whatever. So I think the working on the less sensitivity and making sure that the ingredients are working fine and are easy to use or easy to understand, I think it's a key point as well on the disability side. I never thought about because I have short hair and I can't get it very long anyway, but I never thought of the problem of course, having to blow dry your hair for like more than 5 minutes. Yeah, it's very complex if you can't move or anything. So, and I think it's not just a question of like disability, but like it's also a question of age, because as you age you have less mobility as well, like it's harder to open a bottle or something like this, or even like I wear glasses obviously, so how can I put my liner without my glasses? I can't.
Yes, I used to wear contacts and then I had LASIK, so I completely identify.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
was
And
a life
even
changing event.
exactly. We even this like no, I don't really need. I mean, it's fine if I can apply my makeup without glasses. I'm fine. But if I go older, I guess at some point I will need my glasses to even apply my makeup. So how can we answer this? And I think it's a very interesting research section, because it's very interesting to see how we can solve some problems and make actually a real difference, a real impact in the beauty world. So I like the fact that the beauty is becoming more open and cutting and crushing the standards, because I think we need to change the way we do beauty and the way we see beauty. Mm.
And I think more and more people are embracing themselves, right? It's no longer a problem to be different. People want to be different, and people are really happy in the skin that they're in. I think post COVID, the world has woken up to, hey, I am me, I love me, I'm doing me, and I'm living my best life. So beauty has to follow with that. Beauty's supposed to make you feel even better, whether you're enhancing who you are, whether you're hiding something, whether you're trying to, just relax, whatever it is, that product is bringing you joy. That's what beauty is supposed to do. And we need to be able to deliver that joy to everyone, regardless of their gender, regardless of their ability. And if we're leaving certain people out, that's on us. That's a shame.
Yeah, I agree. That's very, very much the case. And you're right. Like the generation that we have right now, the new generation is really like want to change everything, and they won't let us go away with it anyway if we don't change anything. They wouldn't let the statu quo, continue as it is. So if we don't change, we're going to be pushed to change anyway, which is amazing, because I think there's nothing like being pushed to change. So I'm gonna welcome now Victoria. She's joining us, and then we can ask her some question about the project and how she's developed the brand, because it's a fantastic brand and it's a fantastic example of what's going on when it comes to making beauty more available for disability. So welcome, Victoria. Thank you for joining us. Hello.
Hi, Victoria.
Hello. Hello.
Thank you for joining us from the US. By the way, I'm based in London and Anita is in Paris, and Victoria is more on the West Coast in the US. So thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you. So we wanted to talk about, we were talking about the fact that the beauty is very like the standards are moving and we are making beauty more accessible and more valuable for more people. And you have a very interesting example and a case study that is I think it's a great demonstration of what beauty can be today. So can you tell us about the genesis of Victoria Land and the Cyrus system that you developed? I think you started your brand in 2016, if I'm not wrong.
Yes, so I started developing Victorialand Beauty, which is the skincare line, in 2000, around 2016. In 2018, after the birth of my son Cyrus, we learned that he was born blind. And, at the time, I didn't know anything about blindness, never really thought about the struggles that people with blindness face. But after kind of, having him and kind of seeing the world a little differently through his eyes, I realized that product accessibility, product packaging accessibility is a huge barrier for people with blindness and people with disabilities across the board. And when I realized that, I thought, well, there's got to be a solution, because the current packaging standard requirements that we have just do not meet the needs for this population. So I set out to create a solution called the Cyrus system of raised universal symbols. And I launched that as a proof of concept on my Victorialand Beauty skincare line in 2020 as a proof of concept. And after launching that, realized that the potential of this system, if it was on every brand across every category, could have such a huge impact for this community. In addition, it also helps people like me who wear glasses, who struggle as well, people with, dyslexia, foreign language speakers. So realizing the impact a universal symbol system could have on packaging, I decided to pivot to focus solely on building out the Cyrus system across additional categories.
And just to give an example, for instance, like the crescent moon is like the night cream symbol. Do you have any other
Yes.
example that you can just describe quickly?
Sure. So the crescent moon signifies night cream. The oil drop is face oil. A wavy line is moisturizer. Again, as I was developing this system and the symbol system, it was important that when creating the symbols, that they made sense for the products that they represent, to make it easier for people to learn this new language.
You have an upside down triangle as well, no?
I do, and that's for eye cream.
I remember that, and I only saw it once.
It's interesting that you just said that. We've been doing a lot of usability testing, and the retention is really great on using and learning this language. I mean, the way I see it is, if we can learn what emojis mean, we can learn what this language means. If we can, learn what a stop symbol means or a yield symbol means, it's the same idea. We can easily learn this symbol system.
Yeah, definitely. And it's very interesting. And it took you 2 years of development, and you work with visually impaired people, right? With a charity or an association? I don't know. I'm not sure.
Yeah, so I worked with an organization here in the States called the Lighthouse Organization. I worked with a local chapter here in Florida where I live, because it was really important for me to work alongside the community that I was developing it for. And I think that's where you see a lot of mistakes, because obviously we've seen, companies and brands attempt to be inclusive of this community, but then they add Braille to packaging, and then only less than 10% of this community actually reads Braille. So when you're working alongside the community, you're able to really understand their needs so that you can develop the best solution.
Because you looked into at Braille first, and then you realized that only actually 10% of people were actually able to read Braille. So
yeah, I mean, I knew about a handful of brands that had added Braille to their packaging, but when I researched further as to why Braille hasn't become more mainstream, I found out that less than 10% of the population can actually read Braille. And there's a variety of reasons for that, but it's such a low percentage of this community. So that is not a solution, obviously, that will
that will work for them. And also there was the solution for the QR code, but the QR code were not tactile. You could if you couldn't see them, you couldn't see them.
Again, that's another example of working alongside this community to understand that, yes, QR codes, barcodes are extremely valuable because they can scan them, but if they can't locate them, then that, presents another challenge.
Yeah, exactly. So it's very interesting. And can you tell us more, because now you're developing, and you developed it for your brand, but you realize the idea, the vision behind this is to push other brands to put that on the packaging as well, and to make this a mainstream, I guess, technique or design. But now you realize it was really complex for the brands to do this, so you came up with a new idea.
Right, exactly. So yeah, for a couple of years, I talked with a lot of different brands and large CPG companies, and everybody loved the idea of it, but it all came down to, how do we implement this and the cost it would add to packaging.
Yeah.
And, and I appreciate that. As a former brand owner, I understand those concerns and those challenges. But it was also important, there's a whole group of people out there right now that deal and struggle with this challenge every single day. It impacts their independence and, you know, their ability to like freely experience, enjoy products. And I wanted to make this system available to everyone. And I also wanted it to be affordable as well, because
Yes.
accessibility is very expensive
Yes.
for the disabled community. So I spent another year developing what we call touch tags, which are essentially stickers that you can apply to whatever current product that you're using. That way you can use any product. So it's not just you only can use this certain amount of brands that have, you know, this system or have accessible packaging. Now you can make any product
Yes.
that you want to use accessible so that you can independently use them. And it also makes it safer too, because if you are not able to distinguish one product from another and you pick up the wrong product and try to apply it to your face or put it in your eye or ingest it, I mean, that can be a huge, you know, issue.
I agree. And this means you've developed more symbols, because initially you had 26 of them and now you've got 50 of them now, if I'm right?
Yes, so we have currently the Cyrus library consists of over 50 symbols across 9 product categories. And with the touch tags, we'll be releasing 26 of them across skincare, self-care, and home care.
Yeah, I think it's amazing.
This summer.
Yeah.
I love that, Victoria. I love that it goes across outside of beauty, right? Because as you mentioned, you are giving them accessibility and independence. And
Exactly.
independence is not just about what you put on your face and in your body. It's also being able to go wash your clothes and, you know, operate whatever it is in the kitchen and knowing what that item is. So that's really great. Bravo.
Yeah, and it's a problem across all categories, all product packaging. So yeah, so just the idea is creating this universal language and building it out across all CPGs eventually, and making this a requirement on packaging. Like the current packaging standards that we have just do not address the growing need that's out there, because this problem isn't getting better, it's getting bigger.
Yes.
They estimate that in the next 30 years, 55% more people will have vision loss. That's 600 million more people. So this is a problem, and this solution addresses that problem, but it also allows everybody to use it.
Exactly.
Everybody can benefit from it, whereas Braille, you know, only a small percentage of people can use it. A symbol system, everybody can use.
And you can even educate your kids from a very young age to know what it is, you know, to differentiate one product from another, which is,
and currently we are, some of the organizations that support people with special needs are integrating the Cyrus system into their independent living programs. So they're starting to teach the language currently to people with special needs, which is very exciting, because that further establishes this as a universal language that will eventually be taught, like you just said, in schools for people with special needs and blindness.
But this is amazing, because I think for me, it's not just, as you said, because actually the people with motor impairment or like visual impairment are not just a tiny portion of the population. It's bigger than we think. And I think you make it available to more people. And I want to ask us as a conclusion, how would you like to see the future of beauty, you know, when it comes to diversity?
I mean, I think that, you know, the industry needs to look at every person out there is a customer, is a consumer. And people with disabilities have the same wants, needs, and desires as anyone else. And there's so much misconceptions out there about this community. I think that, you know, I'd like to see the beauty industry, when they are developing products, that they are designing their products for everyone. And there's a way to design it so that everybody can have access to it. And I've proven that with the Cyrus system.
Yeah, it's amazing. And Anita, what would be your hope for the future in beauty?
You know, in 20 years, I think that this conversation would not even be useful. People would go, "Oh my God, did that used to happen?" I would love for us to get to a place where no matter who you are, how you're getting there, you can pick up a product, you can open a product, you're finding your shade, your texture, whether that's hair care, skin care, color cosmetics, that the offering, the plethora of beauty joy that we're spreading really is just that it is something for everyone, that you can find your space, and that people aren't feeling othered any longer.
Yeah, this is amazing. I'm hoping as well for the future that this kind of initiative won't be just a niche initiative, but it would become mainstream. Because as you said, Victoria, everybody, you know, and Anita, everybody can be touched by this and can be concerned need this kind of product. So it's amazing that you've developed this, and I hope this is going to give you exposure in Europe as well, because we need this in Europe to come to the market. And thank you, ladies. Thank you very much, Anita, Victoria, for joining this talk, and it was very instructive. And again, with the resource, we launched an article and then a report about this. I'm going to publish the link at the bottom of the page, and so follow us for more information. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Bye-bye.